How's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to review an FPV Bush Plane. That's right, an FPV Bush Plane with super huge Tundra tires from Volantex RC. The Trainstar Ascent is here and ready for review. I'm pretty excited because I love these type of cubs. They can go just about anywhere in tall grass. It has pretty large Tundra tires on here and around a 55-inch wingspan, so it is great for a trainer plane or if you want to add FPV gear on here. It has beautiful graphics on here with Trainstar on the left, Ascent over here on the right. All those decals you can apply yourself that come along with the plane. It has a really nice detail. You can run it on a 3S 2200 milliamp and you can expect around a 10-minute flight time with that 3S battery, or you can go up a size and do a 3S 3000 and you can get close to 15-minute flight time with a 3S 3000 milliamp battery. It's a really nice choice for this plane, for the CG. And Volantex also does the awesome milk jug style fuselage, which seem to be like just about indestructible, better than the EPO fuselage. 3-inch Tundra tires on this baby with a super wide stance. It has a really nice wide stance for beginners for landing. And driving this aircraft up front, we have a 12-inch prop on the front running a 4023 1050 kV motor, which is super low kV, with that 40 amp ESC right behind it, and an XT60 connector. You have built-in pre-installed 9-gram servos, which is super nice. You also have hinged control surfaces on all your control surfaces, giving it a little more strength and rigidity. And up top today I have my GoPro and FPV gear leading down to the very bottom hatch, which comes on and off by magnets. And I also have my Crossfire pre-installed on the other side, ready to go today. Now let's go ahead and get this plane up in the air. You can launch it from the ground or you can hand launch it like I did here, and I do a lot of hand launches, and that was probably one of my worst ones in quite a long time. You guys got to see it. I almost biffed it right there, but once I'm up in the air, I'm up about maybe around 80 feet right now, and it leveled off and it's looking good. So I have to tell you, if you've never flown a Cub before, the Cub series planes are probably some of the most absolute best beginner planes on the planet for learning how to fly an RC airplane. They're forgiving, they're easy to fix, and the high wing makes a great trainer. Any plane that has a high wing on it, like the typical Cessna, I believe these fly actually a little better than the Cessnas, having a little bit less stall capabilities. But look at this, I can really slow this plane down, and I haven't had many airplanes down this little rock road right here. I've flown this rock road for years. You guys have seen me fly FPV race quads down it, but really rarely ever have you seen me fly this large of an airplane down that road with this much control. And that says something about the Cub. The Cub is easy to slow down. If you really back off the throttle, the wing is super efficient, and it'll let you do like maybe even a few miles an hour, around 5 miles an hour above the ground, like probably a foot off the ground. It's super cool. And right here I kind of nosed over on accident and had a little bit of a durability test for us there. So that milk jug foam really does hold up. But here we are back out in the bush, and now we're kind of getting into Alaskan bush pilot mode, and I'm really getting into this idea of putting FPV gear on this plane and flying it like a bush plane, really slowing it down a lot and coming in and using that hover capability that this aircraft has, getting in nice and low, and look at how slow I'm able to slow it down over this field. This is really a different type of flying for me, especially flying a little bit of FPV on the top wing. Coming back down that road again, taking my chance there, and I can see that little tree down there, so I'm kind of trying to get in a little bit lower this time, being careful that I don't over throttle or under throttle to stall out, and back off the end of the road here, back over the field. But man, this airplane is so much fun to fly, and just adding a camera on it is just a whole new level of flying a Cub for me. I can really feel like an Alaskan bush pilot. This is just too much fun. And that low speed that you can achieve with this plane is probably the funnest thing about it. You can fly it up high, but look at how low I am right here. Maybe even a foot off the ground, almost touching wingtip in the grass. Back over the grass here, and this was my first landing that we're gonna do here today that I actually didn't flip over, so I was pretty proud of myself right here. quick landing on those big Tundra tires in that tall grass, and yeah, there we go. Got it on the ground without killing the pilot.
It flies so slow around the field on about 20% throttle to 25% throttle, about a foot off the ground. And I have a witness right over there, so yep. He saw it. If it had flaps, it would probably hover right in place. But this one doesn't have flaps, but everything else about it, I like it. It's durable, plastic fuselage, you can't beat that. Okay, so let's test out those Tundra tires and see if they can take off. It's kind of like medium height grass, probably about 1.5 to 2 inch grass. I'm good on my surfaces, so I got a fresh battery in there. Let's go ahead and take off. It's gonna start slow and come up. Wow, straight up actually. I'm about half throttle right now. I'm gonna cut off the throttle and see how it glides. Got a speed brake on there. Really nice. Circle around. Now this plane will do some aerobatics if you want it to. I'll just go full throttle straight up. And let's do a wing over. Little roll there and back this direction. Gets pretty small pretty quick. Plus I have crossfire on there, so I can definitely fly this plane further than I can see. Looking pretty good. Really nice glide ratio. And that's, I mean, as a beginner plane, that's what you want. Because if you had a power failure, but you still had servos, you could bring it back in and land it. You can do actually really nice gliding landings with this type of plane. Look at that glide. There's almost no wind right now. Completely silent. Try not to hit a tree. Straight up. Straight up, almost into a hover. You can use a little rudder to hover this plane. What a really relaxing flyer. So you can FPV this plane, or you can fly it line of sight like this. Calibrate the ESC by pushing your throttle all the way up and turning on the plane. You'll hear it do a series of beeps, and then after you hear the series of beeps, push throttle down. It'll make one more chime, then your ESC is calibrated. So now I have a speed brake on it, which is super cool. So it should bring that prop all the way to a stop. Look at that, very low airspeed. This plane doesn't have a lot of stall characteristics, which is great for a trainer. So for the price point, I think it's a good plane. It's a competitor to something like the Multi-Star. I believe it's the Multi-Star Cub. But this one looks a little more like an Alaskan bush plane to me. It has kind of a narrower front end on it. And a pretty good wingspan, actually. Really nice wingspan on here. It's around 59 inches. Cut that motor again. Just gliding into the wind right here. I got a little bit of headwind coming up, so I can kind of hover into the wind. Looking super nice. Fun Cub, multiplex Fun Cub is what I'm talking about. That's the plane that it looks similar to. The Fun Cub. Everybody bought those a few years ago. But it's cool to see Volantex RC do a Cub, I think, because you have that plastic fuselage, and I've talked about this before on the Ranger. And the Ranger series is like milk jug plastic or something, and this is the same thing, so it's almost indestructible fuselage. Actually better for the beginner than something like foam EPO. It does have EPO wings, which are fixable with some foam safe CA, no big deal. Just cruising around. I should probably try to do a touch and go. What do you guys think? Should we try one? Got another plane out there, another trainer plane. I believe that's a Bixler type plane on our left. So I'm gonna circle around, come from the left to the right here. Got a super minimal throttle. Old timers always told me to come in long and low. I'm gonna cut that throttle completely. Oh, did a nose over. That's what happens. But hey, we get to do another takeoff, so let's go ahead and flip it back over. And we got some pretty deep grass here. There's a lot of dandelions in the field right now, and I'm just gonna kind of drive uphill a little bit there from a stop, from a dead stop. A lot of times you want to give a lot of these planes a little bit of a push before you take off, but these big wheels and the right CG should get us moving. And man, there's some poles right there to my right. I'm glad I didn't hit those. But this guy will take off in less than 10 feet. And that's pretty much the characteristic of any type of bush plane with the big Tundra tires. Look at that slow glide. Almost like the real thing. That is so cool. Back around. It was raining earlier, so we were having some issues trying to get this guy up in the air for you. But man, I'm really impressed with the line of sight flying. This would be a great plane to fly out at your local AMA field or FPV. FPV was really fun with this plane. I'd like to experiment by putting the camera somewhere else, like under the fuselage, looking down from the tire view would be kind of cool. Look at that, coming nose into the wind right there. Gonna try to avoid those metal stakes right there. And you should be able to get about a 10-minute flight if you're going easy on the battery. 3S2200 should get you plenty of flight time, and I ran my battery pretty far forward on this for the CG. So if you have a GoPro on top of the wing, it will carry a GoPro, no problem. On top of it, I put it on the very top of the wing because I wanted more clearance from the prop. So you're not seeing quite as much prop right up in the GoPro's face. I kind of like to fly left to right circuits here. Kind of like an AMA circuit. Everybody's going the same direction. And how about I come from the other direction and try to do a touch and go again? Maybe just momentarily. I'm trying to do these long touch and goes like I have some kind of runway out here, and that's not really very good. So I'm gonna back up a little bit, kill my motor. And the field is pretty unlevel out here. Oh God, I think I'm gonna hit those posts. I'm gonna go back up, and that's why they call it approach, because you might have to do it again. I'm gonna make an approach. I'm gonna go back around again because I want to come past those poles this time. I love flying this thing into the headwind. That is a lot of fun. It just starts to like float. And I'm only about half throttle right now, you guys. Like, this plane has a nice powerful motor. All right, so man, that was quick and fast. But we did it. Now I'm gonna come in between the poles. Come right over those poles, hopefully. There we go. Let's do a touch and go again. Man, that was a rough one, but we did it. Just like a bush plane would do. All right, let's come back around. And we're probably about the end of our battery here, so I better bring it in and land it. I don't wanna kill my buddy's battery here. It's gonna flare up at the last second. Oh man, that was quite a durability test. Just kind of bounced. The landing gear on this plane looks awesome. They're bolted all the way up inside the fuselage through a really thick core underneath here. So you have the bolts probably about 3 inches inside the fuselage. Pretty easy FPV setup on here. Got my crossfire on this side. Crossfire antenna coming out the top with my AX2 up there. Tons of range, but good looking plane. Really nice looking plane. So I think if I was to give this one a star rating, you guys, I might have to say something like I'd say 4.8 for the Trainstar Ascent from Volantex RC. It's not a bad plane at all. I think it's worth the money, and it took me a couple hours to get it set up. I took my time. I think if you were in a rush, you could probably get this plane together and flying within an hour's time. So that's just putting everything together, and that's the PNP version. You can add your own receiver, whatever you'd like to put on here, and get this plane going. 3S2200, you're ready to rock. But thanks again for watching my reviews, guys. I'm Justin Davis. This has been the FPV Bush Plane. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.